Good morning everybody and welcome. It's Good Friday, so I'm going to make some hot cross buns today. It's one of those things I've actually never made before, would you believe it? So this is a learning experience for me as much as it is for you guys. Maybe you guys have already made it before. So anyway, the first thing I need to do is take my warm milk, so not too hot, just warm, and I'm going to add to that 1 tablespoon of caster sugar and 25 grams of my fresh yeast. If you don't have fresh yeast, just use 2 packets of the dried yeast, okay? And I basically just mix these together and let the yeast get incorporated with the sugar and the milk, and that helps the yeast to get activated along with the heat. So you need heat, sugar and moisture. They're the 3 things you need. So I'm just going to let these sit over here on my warm aga. If you don't have a warm spot, just put it in the windowsill with the sunshine or something like that. Just a little bit of heat to help the yeast get activated. Okay, so and you'll know it's activated when you see little bubbles start to rise on the top like that. Just trying to get it all mixed up then. I'm just going to leave it sit there for a second. I'll just wash my hands here very quickly. And the next thing I need to do is get my flour. So I have 450 grams of strong flour. Now I'm using strong flour, so it's the flour that you would normally use to make bread, okay? I'm going to use my mixer and pop it in here. If you don't have a mixer, you can totally do this by hand and just rub your butter in through your flour, okay? I think it's 75 grams of butter, but I'll put it up there just to be sure. Now my butter is at room temperature, so it helps to incorporate it quicker. If you don't have the machine, you just rub the butter in through the flour like this until your butter is completely dissolved through the flour and it resembles breadcrumbs, okay? And that's going to happen pretty quickly here because there's not a lot of butter compared to flour. So when that's done, I'll come back to you guys. Okay, so my butter is now incorporated into my flour and I'm going to add the rest of my sugar here. I originally had measured out how much sugar. 100 grams of caster sugar, but remember I took a tablespoon out for the yeast mixture. So I'm just going to add the rest of that 100 grams in there. Now in here my spices, I have a half a teaspoon of salt, 2 teaspoons of mixed spice, 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, and half a teaspoon of cinnamon, and 1/4 teaspoon of grated nutmeg. I just grated mine fresh this morning. I always choose to use the fresh nutmeg as opposed to the ground nutmeg. It's just a world of difference in freshness. So I'm going to just mix these guys together just a little bit. Doesn't take that long. And I wanted to show you my yeast mixture. It has risen massively and it's gone all fluffy and spongy like, okay? So I also have milk here that has been heating as well. And to that milk, I'm going to add my eggs. I have 2 eggs here. So I originally had 300 mils of milk in here. I took 60 mils out to mix with my yeast. Okay, so I'm just going to add my eggs to the remaining milk, about 240 mils, and just give those a mix up together. So there's 2 beaten eggs in here. Okay, and at this point now, I am going to change my my hook on here. I was using this one to beat the butter and sugar, and I'm now going to use my dough hook, which is this guy here, because this is going to knead the dough for me. Happy days. So I'm just going to pour everything in here, all of my egg and milk, and my yeast and sugar and milk as well. I'm just going to pop those guys in. Make sure you get all the yeast out of there. The smell is lovely. I must say, if you get a chance to get your hands on some fresh yeast, there's a world of a difference. I actually got it in Super Value this week locally, which is most unusual because I normally have to buy it in a Polish shop. So it was nice to be able to get it locally. So I'm going to leave this on here on my lowest speed, and I'm going to let it beat the dough for 4 minutes, okay? So I'll come back in 4 minutes. Okay guys, as you can see, my dough is nice and stretchy. Now, I should have told you, don't add all the egg and milk mixture at the one time. Just add it slowly so that you get this kind of consistency. If you add it all together like I did, it was too wet and I had to add more flour. So hold back on the egg and milk mixture and just add it slowly, okay? We're all learning together. So I'm going to add my fruit now at this stage, and I have 50 grams of sultanas here, 75 grams of currants, and 25 grams of mixed peel. Love mixed peel. I think it adds just a lovely depth to most things. Okay, and I'm just going to knead these together again now, just for another further minute. And in the meantime, I have my plastic cling film for the top. And I've just lightly oiled this with a tiny, maybe 1 teaspoon of olive oil, because I'm going to cover my bowl now with my cling film, and I'm going to let it sit to rise for about an hour to an hour and a half. So it does take a little bit of time, but it'll just be ready in time, probably for about 3 o'clock today. So that's the time we'll be munching into our hot cross buns, hopefully. Okay, so there we go. I hope you can see here the consistency of my dough. Do you see? It's just nice. That's the way you want it. If it's too wet, it won't hold its shape when you go to shape your buns, okay? So again, I can't emphasize enough, don't add all your milk and egg at the one time, okay? So I'm just going to let that sit with my oiled cling film, and I'm going to leave it over here on top of my aga to rise. If you don't have somewhere like that, your hot press, or beside a radiator, beside fire, or in a windowsill with the sun shining in, somewhere just a little bit warmer than normal. So I'll see you in an hour and a half. So guys, that is an hour, probably 2 hours actually, since I first put this dough away, and look at it, it's completely doubled inside. So I'm going to knock it back just like that, and just gently knead it a little bit in the bowl here to get it brought back down to normal size. And I'm just going to let it sit in the bowl now for another 5 minutes, and then I'll start shaping the buns, okay? And in the meantime, we can start making our mixture to make the cross. So, to make the cross, we have to mix some flour with water, and we just want to get it to a consistency that we can pipe across the bun. And so we need to have it a fairly wet consistency, that it just glides across. If you don't have a piping bag, you can just use the end of a Ziploc bag, which I find really great, because the plastic in a Ziploc bag is usually a lot stronger than another kind of, like say a sandwich bag or something like that. That wouldn't be strong enough. So that looks not quite runny enough. Another tiny little bit of water. And some people at this stage would use just a little bit of short crust pastry, and they would roll it out and just kind of weave it, you know, roll it up like that and put it across like that. You can totally do that if you prefer. But I just find this really easy, and you don't have the hassle of making pastry, and that's where I want it. I wanted a nice pouring consistency, okay? So I'm going to leave that to the side, and now we're going to shape our dough. So I'll just lightly dust the surface here and get our dough thrown out here. It's already starting to rise again, even within those 5 minutes. It's amazing how that happens. Smell is gorgeous, guys. So I am literally going to just cut it in half, and then just make sure your hands are nice and dry and covered with flour. And we're just going to make little shapes, and you can do this as big or as small as you like. Don't forget they're going to rise, so that's probably a tiny bit too big. Well, actually we like them fairly big in this house. A tiny bit too big. So you want to go for, and roll them out then like that to make them nice and round. That kind of size in your hand, just enough, and it's going to puff up, so don't worry about it if you think it's going to be too small. This is the tray I'm going to use, and I just use one of these lovely sliding pieces of plastic. They had them in Lidl this week, I think. Great job. So just pop it on like that, and just keep going like that, shaping your dough into round circles. Sometimes it's easier to just cut off the size that you want with a knife, rather than poking and poking it dough all the time. Okay, so I'll keep going here, and I'll make my little round shapes. If you want to make it a really nice smooth round, you can always tuck in underneath like that until you get a nice round surface on the top. But I wouldn't worry too much about it because they are going to rise, okay? So I'll keep going here until I have them all done. So guys, here we go. My buns are all nicely shaped. I wanted to keep them a little bit close together because I like that whole tearing of bread appearance. So that's why I've kind of kept them nice and close together. So I'm just going to cover them with a tea towel and leave them back again over here onto the heat for another, I think it's another 40 minutes. Yeah, okay. If that's wrong, I'll correct it, don't worry. So guys, this is the next step. I have a Ziploc bag here, and I'm literally just going to cut the very end of it, just a small little cut, not too big. And I'm going to fill that with my flour and water mix, which is over here. It's going to be a messy job. And my buns have doubled in size, so we're ready to go. Mark the cross on the hot cross buns and pop them into the oven. And I have to say, it does take a long time to make these, guys, so you really need to be fairly committed for a good few hours. The sun is splitting the rocks here today in Donegal. She'll be outside. Can't wait to get out into the garden. So I kind of wish I was in the garden, not in here making hot cross buns. C'est la vie. Okay, here we go. Here are my buns over here. They are huge. Look at that. Look how much they have doubled. So I'm literally going to run across like this. Okay. All the way across, each way, across, making a cross across. And then I'm going to go the other way. So this is a super easy way to make the cross indentation, because as they rise in the oven, this part will disappear in, but you'll still have that nice, don't want that up there, just a little bit off, cross shape. Okay, just the last little one up here. Just about have enough mixture in here to get one more going. Okay, now I'm going to pop these into a fairly hot oven. It's 220. I keep forgetting I have my sourdough in here, so I'm just going to pull this out because it's done. 220 for 15 minutes, but I'm going to check it halfway through and turn them around, okay? Okay guys, last step. I have melted a little bit of apricot jam and I'm just going to brush all the way over the top of the buns, and that's what's going to give them that lovely glazed look. Already you can see that it's changing the colour of the hot cross buns to that lovely signature caramelized sparkly shiny look. So if you don't have apricot jam in the house, even if you used a little bit of beaten egg or a little bit of milk wash would change the colour. Look, don't they look good already? I must say I'm quite pleased with how they look. So I'm just going to pop them back into the oven now for 5 more minutes just to toast up the colour, and that'll be them done, finished. They don't take a lot of time to cook. It's the preparation, it's getting them to the oven that takes all the time. Okay, just another few minutes. And here we go guys. Our hot cross buns are finished and they look great. A little bit flatter than I would have thought they should have been, but let's have a look and cut in here to one, pull it apart and see what it's like. Oh, they look great. They're lovely, lovely and springy. Smell fantastic. We'll have to let them cool down now a little bit and try one. Have a lovely Easter, guys, and thanks for watching the video today for the hot cross buns. Hope you get a chance to make some. God bless. See you soon.